My wife disappeared for 24 hours at her ex's house and laughed, calling me insecure. So I filed for divorce after 6 years of marriage and walked away for good. I'm Daniel, 34, from Texas, and I've been married to Emily, who's 32, for 6 years. At first glance, we seemed like the perfect couple, enjoying a comfortable life with a home that felt right and plans to start a family. I thought we shared the same values, things like loyalty and a solid foundation for our marriage. But it's true what they say. Those values are only truly tested when something happens. It all kicked off on a Friday evening. Emily mentioned she was going out for drinks with some coworkers after a long week. This wasn't out of the ordinary for her, and after giving her a kiss and reminding her to come home at a reasonable hour, I settled down for a quiet night. As hours went by, I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe they were just having a good time. But as midnight came and I still hadn't heard from her, I began checking my phone more often. I sent a quick text, "Hey, you good?" No response. By 2 a.m., I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. Tried again, same result. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, worry started to creep in. This wasn't like Emily. She usually kept me in the loop, even when it was late. I kept telling myself there must be a reasonable explanation. Saturday rolled around and still nothing. I called and texted again but got no reply. My mind took off with all sorts of possibilities. Did she crash her car? Was she safe? Was she with someone else? I hated that those thoughts slipped in, but the long silence made me doubt everything. By that afternoon, I was more than worried. I was angry. Fear and frustration gnawed at me as I paced the house, checking the driveway every hour for her car. Finally, around 9 p.m. on Saturday, almost 24 hours later, the front door opened. Emily walked in, barefoot and holding her heels, looking a bit disheveled as if she'd just returned from a wild night out. She looked surprised to find me waiting in the living room. "Where have you been, Emily?" I asked, my tone sharper than I meant it to be. She froze for a moment, glanced away, and muttered, "Out." I raised my voice again. "You were gone a whole day without a call or text. Do you know how worried I was?" She brushed past me toward the hallway, seemingly dead set on heading straight for the shower. That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let her walk away as if I didn't matter. "Don't you dare walk away from me," I said firmly, blocking her path. "Tell me where you were." She halted back to me. The silence felt heavy. Finally, she turned around, arms crossed, defiantly almost. "Fine. I was at Ryan's birthday party." That name hit me like a bucket of ice water. Ryan, her ex, the one she had been with for years before me, the one she swore was in her past. I stood there, trying to wrap my head around what she just said. It felt like everything I thought I knew about my marriage was crumbling. "Where have you been, Emily?" I repeated, my voice low and shaky. She shifted her weight, avoiding my gaze. "Out." I shot back, my tone sharper. "You stayed at your ex's for a whole day and think that's okay?" She attempted to walk past me again. "Don't walk away from me," I told her, my chest tightening. "Tell me where you were." For a moment, she wouldn't meet my eyes. Then she threw her hands up, like I was being unreasonable. "Fine. I was at Ryan's birthday party," she snapped. I felt punched in the gut. She had spent the night at her ex's place. The man she claimed was just a part of her past. My stomach dropped. "You were with him all night, and you didn't even think to tell me? Seriously?" She rolled her eyes, exasperated. "The party went late, and everyone was drinking. I crashed on his couch. Nothing happened." Her nonchalant tone made me feel like I was losing my mind. "Emily, you spent the night at Ryan's and ignored my calls for 24 hours. Do you understand how that looks?" Her defensive posture hardened. "You're so insecure. Why do you always overthink? It was just one night. You act like it was a huge crime." Her words stung, and not just because of what she said, but how she said it, as if my feelings didn't matter. "Just one night? You left your husband at home, disappeared, stayed at your ex's, and I'm the one being dramatic for being upset." She shook her head, almost laughing. "Grow up, Daniel. This is embarrassing." Trust me more instead of jumping to conclusions. I felt stunned, like my partner was dismissing my concerns as childish. At that moment, I realized trust and respect in our relationship were starting to fade. I opened my mouth to speak but was caught off guard by the understanding that this was not just about one night. It was about choices, respect, and the reality of the marriage we had or thought we had. Emily seemed ready to move on, gathering her things and heading toward the bedroom, which made it clear to me that our marriage might not be what I thought. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You spent the night at your ex's house without telling me," I exclaimed, my voice shaking with anger. "Do you hear how that sounds?" At that moment, her tone snapped. "You're just insecure. Stop overthinking. It was just one night. You act like I committed a huge crime." Those words hit me harder than if she'd admitted to infidelity. "You left your husband at home, ignored my calls, and spent the night at another man's place, your ex's place. And you want me to grow up?" She didn't flinch. She crossed her arms, looking at me like I was the dramatic one. "Honestly, if one night at Ryan's makes you this angry, maybe you're not mature enough to be married." That statement was the final nail in the coffin. In that instant, something quieted inside me. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. I realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a choice. Emily had decided to go, not tell me where she was, ignore my calls, and then belittle me when I sought the truth. "You know what, Emily?" I said finally, looking her in the eye and speaking almost too calmly. "I need to be a man. And a real man doesn't stay in a marriage where he's disrespected." For the first time, her confident stance faltered. She tilted her head like she was trying to process what I meant. "If Ryan needs help with his parties, maybe you should just stay with him forever," I added. The color drained from her face, and for once, she had no immediate comeback. I didn't wait for her reply. I turned and walked out of the room. For the first time since she had come back, I felt like I had taken control of myself. Because no matter what happened next, I realized something had broken that night that couldn't be fixed with apologies or promises. The woman I thought I knew wasn't the same woman standing in front of me anymore. The next few days felt like living in a fog. I went through the motions, waking up, following my routine, and eating when I remembered. But the atmosphere between us felt tense and heavy. We barely spoke. When we did, it always led back to the same tired arguments. "You're overreacting. Nothing happened. Daniel. You're blowing this out of proportion. Trust me more." Each time she said those words, I felt even deeper cuts. She still didn't get it. This wasn't just about whether something physical happened with Ryan. It was about respect and the choice to vanish for a day without a word, then act like I was unreasonable for caring. On Monday morning, as I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, the rising sun felt like a spotlight on what I needed to do. Emily walked in, hair tied back, still in her pajamas, looking tired but not remorseful. I didn't raise my voice or try to pick a fight. I just spoke calmly. "Emily, I've made my decision. I'm filing for divorce." The mug slipped slightly in her grip, and her eyes widened in disbelief. "What? Daniel, no. You can't be serious. Over one night." "Yes," I replied firmly, meeting her gaze. "That one night showed me everything I needed to know about this marriage. You didn't care about me, my feelings, or even the bare minimum of respect. If you wanted to go to Ryan's party, you could have told me. If you got too drunk, you could have called. But instead, you vanished for a whole day and belittled me when I asked for the truth." Her voice shook with frustration. "Daniel, this is crazy. You're throwing away 6 years over a misunderstanding. I didn't cheat. Nothing happened. You're blowing this up for no reason." I shook my head. "You still don't understand. It's not about cheating. It's about choices. You chose to hide, chose not to answer me, chose to stay at your ex's, and chose to insult me when I asked for some respect. That's not something I can overlook." She slammed the mug down on the counter, glaring at me. "You're being childish. Marriage is supposed to be about forgiveness and maturity. People make mistakes. You don't just walk away at the first sign of trouble. But this wasn't a mistake. Forgetting to take out the trash is a mistake. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. This was intentional, and there was no amount of guilt-tripping that would change my mind. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice steady. Marriage is about trust, Emily. Without that, there's nothing left. I could see it in her eyes. She finally understood I wasn't joking. I stood up, pushed my coffee aside, and walked toward the door. I'll contact a lawyer this week. I didn't look back, but I could feel her gaze on me. At that moment, I realized whatever we had built over 6 years had come to an end. Not with a loud explosion, but through the silence of her choices. After that morning, I had made up my mind. I drew a line, and for once I wasn't going to move it. Emily, however, couldn't accept that I was serious. In the first few days, she tried to downplay things, saying I was just cooling off, coming to sit beside me on the couch and touching my arm, saying, "Daniel, you're being dramatic. It'll blow over. We'll laugh about this later." But I didn't laugh. I barely even reacted. When that didn't work, she switched to anger. "You're really going to throw away 6 years over one night? You're pathetic." She raised her voice and slammed doors, trying to provoke me. But instead of snapping back, I stayed calm, which only seemed to frustrate her more. Then came the guilt. Late one night, she crawled into bed beside me, her voice shaking as she whispered, "I don't love Ryan. He's just a friend. Nothing happened. You're my husband. Don't throw this away." I didn't respond. The truth was, if I meant that much to her, she'd never have put me in this position to start with. In the week that followed, I began the divorce process. I contacted a lawyer, set up a meeting, and started filling out the paperwork. It wasn't easy. Each step felt heavy, like I was tearing apart a piece of my life. But at the same time, it felt necessary, like cutting out something toxic before it spread any further. Emily, on the other hand, was in overdrive. She tried every trick in the book. One day, she screamed, "You're ruining both our lives." The next day, she cried in the kitchen, wiping her tears away, begging, "Please don't do this. I'll prove I can change." Then she switched to manipulation, reaching out to my parents and telling them I was abandoning her over nothing. But when I explained everything to my parents, they stood by me. My dad looked me in the eye and said, "You deserve better, son." My mom hugged me and whispered, "Don't let her make you question your worth." That support gave me the strength I needed. I realized Emily wasn't genuinely sorry. She wasn't trying to fix things. She was trying to maintain control. She wanted me to doubt myself, to feel guilty, to convince myself that my boundaries were unreasonable. But the more she pushed, the clearer it became. This was about a pattern. One evening, while I was sifting through some documents at the dining table, she sat across from me with red, puffy eyes from crying. "You're acting childish," she said again, her voice cracking. "Marriage is supposed to be about forgiveness and maturity. People make mistakes. You don't just walk away over one slip-up." I set my pen down and met her gaze. "This wasn't a mistake, Emily. Mistakes are accidents. You made a choice. You chose to lie by omission, chose to stay and ignore me, and chose to insult me when I confronted you. That's not a marriage I want to be in." For the first time, I saw panic in her eyes. Her bravado cracked, and she reached across the table to grab my hand, her voice almost desperate. "Daniel, please don't do this. I don't love Ryan. He's just a friend. I swear nothing happened. You're my husband. Please don't throw us away." Tears fell on my hand, but even then, I felt nothing but emptiness. Her words seemed insincere, like a line she was delivering too late. The days dragged on, and our house started to feel less like a home and more like a battlefield. The weapons weren't fists or shouting but silence, cold stares, and carefully chosen words. I continued working on the divorce paperwork. Each meeting with my lawyer felt like peeling away a layer of a life I no longer recognized. Emily kept trying to pull me back. One night she begged, the next she raged, and the next she cried until her eyes were swollen. But none of it changed the fact that she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Then there was that night we argued in the kitchen. My patience was thin, and her voice was rising again. It It started with the same old lines. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is. You should have trusted me." But then, in a fit of anger, she blurted out something different. "Fine. Maybe part of me wanted to feel wanted again. Maybe I missed how Ryan used to treat me. But I didn't sleep with him." Those words struck deeper than anything she'd said before. I froze, feeling my chest tighten. So it wasn't just a party. She hadn't gone for drinks or convenience. She had gone because she wanted something from him. Attention, validation, the feeling of being desired. She realized too late what she admitted. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror, as if she wished she could unsay it all. But I couldn't unhear it. I felt something inside me shatter. She hadn't physically cheated, maybe, but she had emotionally stepped out of our marriage the moment she sought from Ryan what she should have been seeking from me. I leaned against the counter, a sudden calm washing over me. "So that's what this is about." Her eyes darted anywhere but mine. "No, Daniel, that's not what I meant. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking." "Don't." I interrupted her quietly. "You've said enough." She tried to reach for me, tears streaming down her face. "It didn't mean anything. I love you, Daniel. You're my husband. Please don't leave me. I can fix this." But her promises sounded shallow, like a song that had ended yet she kept humming. When the divorce papers were finalized, I wasn't angry anymore. Anger takes energy, and she had drained all of it from me. What I felt instead was something heavier but clearer: freedom. Emily, however, didn't stop trying. One afternoon she showed up at my office, eyes red and clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. "I made a mistake, Daniel. Please don't leave me. I'll prove I can change. Just give me one more chance." I looked at her, really looked at her. For a moment, I remembered the woman I fell in love with years ago. But then I recalled everything else. The silence, the lies, the defensiveness, and the answer became clear. "You didn't just make a mistake," I said softly. "You made a choice, and so am I." Her tears kept falling. But this time, they didn't sway me. The final talk came when Emily showed up one last time a few days before the divorce was finalized. She stood at the door, eyes puffy, clutching the frame as if afraid to let go. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please don't do this. I'll change. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut Ryan out completely. Just don't give up on us." I let her in but didn't sit down. I stood there, steady, calm, something I hadn't been in months. "Emily," I said, "I hope one day you realize that love isn't just about words. It's about actions. And you made yours when you walked out the door to Ryan's party. You had the chance to tell me. You could have called. You could have respected me. Instead, you disappeared and then mocked me for expressing concern." She shook her head violently, tears streaming down. "It was just one night. It didn't mean anything. Please don't throw away everything we built. You're my husband. You're supposed to stand by me." I sighed. "And you were supposed to stand by me too. Marriage goes both ways. But when I needed honesty, you gave me lies. When I needed reassurance, you gave me insults. When I needed respect, you gave me excuses. That's not partnership. That's not love." She collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "I made a mistake. I just wanted to feel wanted again. I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean to hurt you." I paused, letting her words linger. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hurt. I just felt finished. "Emily," I said gently, "I don't hate you, but I can't stay married to someone who only recognizes what they had once it's gone. I deserve more than that. I deserve respect that doesn't vanish when temptation arises." She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, searching for any sign that I might change my mind. But I had nothing left to give. That was our last real conversation. The papers were signed a week later. No screaming, no drama, just signatures marking the end of 6 years. Months passed, and I heard through mutual friends that Emily had tried to reconnect with Ryan. But he wasn't interested. He had moved on. In the end, she was left alone. Meanwhile, I slowly began to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I lay awake wondering how everything unraveled so quickly. As time went on, I came to understand something really significant. Betrayal isn't just about physical infidelity. It can also involve disrespect, lies, omissions, and choices that expose someone's true loyalty. Once trust is broken, love just can't hold up. I decided to walk away, not out of weakness or immaturity like she often claimed, but because I finally chose to prioritize myself. Looking back, I can see I made the right call. Still, I can't help but wonder about it sometimes. I appreciate you sticking around until the end. If you enjoyed this, maybe hit that subscribe button to keep up with more content.